Millionaire divorced her, calling her infertile. 5 years later, he invited her to his new wife's baby shower, but she arrived with quadruplets and a secret that shattered his life. Some women are not born barren. They are merely planted in soil too poisoned to let them bloom. They say you can hear your heart breaking if you listen carefully enough. Donna Mansell had been listening for what felt like forever, lying awake in a bed too large for one person but occupied by two, straining to hear something besides her own breathing and the absence of her husband's touch. The Smith estate was built for happiness that never arrived. Marble floors stretched endlessly beneath crystal chandeliers that cast light but never warmth. Every room echoed with expensive silence. Donna had learned to walk without sound here, her footsteps disappearing into stone, her presence fading into wallpaper and shadows. Their wedding had been beautiful in the way funerals are beautiful. Everyone wore appropriate faces, said appropriate words, and pretended not to notice that the groom kissed his bride with all the warmth of a man signing a contract. Matt had married her because his mother begged him to, because she was dying and wanted to see him settled before she went. From that first night, he never touched her with tenderness. Their bedroom was a continent of silk sheets with an ocean between them. He would come home late, slide into bed without a word, and turn his back to her. In the morning he would already be gone. "Does he speak to you?" His mother had asked once, her voice thin with illness. "When necessary," Donna had answered. The old woman's eyes had filled with tears. "I thought having someone would soften him," but Matt Smith remained granite. He came home each evening, climbed the stairs to their bedroom, and kept to his edge of the bed while Donna kept to hers. The space between them grew wider each night. His mother visited weekly, her illness making her thin as paper, her eyes sharp as knives. She would watch Donna pour tea, and those eyes would always drift downward to Donna's stomach. "Nothing yet?" "No, ma'am, not yet." "Then perhaps you should see a doctor. There might be something wrong." The words hung like accusations. Donna would excuse herself before the tears could come, lock herself in the bathroom farthest from the sunroom, and press her hands against her flat belly, whispering apologies to children who refused to come. The whispers started in the kitchen. Cook told the housekeeper, who told the gardener, who told the driver. Donna heard them one afternoon when she passed the servants' corridor. Poor Master Matt, married to a woman who cannot give him children. "My cousin had the same problem. Turns out she was barren. What a shame. Such a handsome man, wasted on a wife who cannot fulfill her purpose." Donna stood frozen in the hallway, the word barren echoing in her skull, like a bell tolling for the dead. She wanted to defend herself, but with what words? What evidence did she have that they were wrong? That night she tried to speak to Matt about seeing doctors together. He was in his study, surrounded by leather-bound books he never opened. "Matt, I was thinking perhaps we should consult with someone. About why we have not yet conceived." He did not look up. "You can see whoever you need to see. I meant together. Both of us?" Now he looked at her, his eyes cold as winter stones. "Why would I need to see anyone? There is nothing wrong with me. I am not saying there is. The problem is not mine, Donna. The problem has never been mine." He returned to his papers, dismissing her. She stood in the doorway, feeling herself become smaller and smaller, until she wondered if she might disappear entirely. The whispers in the mansion grew louder, more careless. The staff no longer bothered to lower their voices. She heard the word barren attached to her name so often it began to feel like her title. Matt heard the whispers too. Instead of defending her, he began to echo them. "How long do you expect me to wait?" he asked one night through the darkness. "Wait for what?" "For you to do the one thing you were brought here to do." Donna felt something crack inside her chest. "That is not fair." "Fair? I gave you my name, this house, everything. What have you given me in return?" "I have tried. Trying is not enough. You have produced nothing." After that night, Matt stopped coming to their bedroom at all. Donna began sleeping on the floor sometimes, unable to bear the sight of that enormous empty bed. She would lie on the carpet with a blanket, her hand pressed to her belly, Maybe if he had loved me, you would have come. Maybe love could have healed whatever is broken inside me. The nursery his mother had decorated remained locked. Donna had only been inside once, shortly after the wedding, when hope still lived in her heart. The room was painted soft yellow, with a crib of carved wood and curtains that danced with painted butterflies. One evening, Donna stood outside the nursery with her hand on the knob. Matt found her there. "What are you doing?" "That room is not for you. That room was meant for my children, my real children. Not the fantasy you keep pretending will arrive." He walked away, leaving Donna with her hand still on the doorknob, her heart breaking so loudly she was certain the entire mansion could hear it. That night, lying on the floor of the guest room, Donna pressed both hands to her belly and whispered one final prayer. Maybe in another life, maybe in another house, maybe with a man who knows what love is. Outside, storm clouds gathered, and Donna Mansell closed her eyes, not knowing that her deliverance was coming, that sometimes you have to break completely before you can be remade. Chapter 2. The Cruelest Words. The morning Matt Smith's mother died, Donna wept alone while her husband made phone calls in his study, his voice steady and emotionless as he arranged the funeral. At the service, Matt stood beside Donna without touching her, a mile of space between their shoulders, and she understood that with his mother gone, she had lost her last defender in this cold house. After the funeral, everything grew darker. Matt spoke to her only when necessary, his sentences short and sharp as knife wounds. The staff avoided her eyes, their pity more unbearable than their whispers had been. She was in the garden one afternoon when the housekeeper approached with careful steps. "Mrs. Smith, forgive me, but I overheard Master Matt on the telephone. He was speaking with his lawyer about divorce." The roses blurred before Donna's eyes. She had known this was coming, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. That evening, Matt returned home earlier than usual. She heard him calling her name with an edge that made her stomach tighten with dread. He was in the dining room, still wearing his coat. "I had drinks with colleagues this evening. Do you know what they asked me? They asked when they could expect to meet my children. They asked why my wife has not yet given me an heir. Matt, please, do you have any idea how humiliating it is? To be the only man without children? To have to make excuses for a wife who cannot perform the basic function she was designed for. That is not fair. We could see doctors together. I know what is wrong. You are what is wrong. You cannot give me what I need. You do not know that for certain. Why would I need to see anyone? My bloodline is flawless. The problem is not with me, Donna. It has never been with me." She felt tears starting. "Then what would you have me do?" "I want you to admit the truth. You are defective, broken. Whatever word you prefer, the meaning is the same. That is cruel. Marrying you was cruel. Wasting my time waiting for something that will never happen was cruel. You have stolen time from me. Time I could have spent building a real family with a real woman." The room spun. She gripped the back of a chair for support. "I'm a real woman. Are you? Because from where I stand you look like an empty shell, hollow, barren." There it was, the word she had been waiting to hear from his lips. And Donna felt something inside her shatter completely. "I am sorry," she whispered. "Sorry is not enough. Sorry does not give me children. Sorry does not undo the mistake I made when I married you." She wanted to scream at him that maybe the problem was his coldness, that bodies know when they are unwelcome, that seeds do not grow in frozen ground. But the words stayed locked inside her throat. "I want you to sleep in the guest wing from now on. I cannot bear to look at you anymore. Your failure?" The words escaped before she could stop them. "You speak as if I wanted this. Did you not? Maybe you are keeping yourself from conceiving out of spite." The accusation was so absurd that Donna could only stare at him. This man who had never touched her with kindness believed she was withholding children from him deliberately. "You are insane," she whispered. His hand shot out and gripped her arm, fingers digging into her flesh hard enough to bruise. Do not ever speak to me that way. I am your husband. I own this house, your clothes, everything you touch. You exist because I allow it." He released her and walked away, leaving Donna with her arm throbbing and her heart in pieces. That night, she slept on the carpet of the guest room, pressing her hand to her belly. Maybe love could have healed me. Maybe gentleness could have opened whatever is closed inside. The storm that had been gathering finally broke on an evening when rain hammered the windows and thunder shook the mansion's foundations. Donna was in the conservatory when Matt appeared carrying a manila envelope. Her heart began to pound before he even spoke. "Donna, we need to talk." "What is that?" "You know what it is." He dropped the envelope on the table. Lightning flashed, illuminating his face in harsh white light, and she saw no mercy there. "Divorce papers. I had my lawyer draw them up. They are very generous, considering. More than you deserve. Matt, please, do not beg. This marriage was a mistake. My mother pushed me into it, and I allowed it because she was dying. But she is gone now, and I am free to correct my error. Your error in believing you could be what I needed. I need a real woman, Donna, not an empty one. Not you." The rain hammered harder. Donna looked down at the envelope and felt something shift inside her. Not heartbreak, she had already broken. What she felt was closer to relief, mixed with terror so profound it threatened to drown her. "Where will I go? That is not my concern. You have family somewhere, do you not? Go back to them. I do not care as long as you are gone from my house." "When?" "Oh, tonight." The word fell like an executioner's blade. Tonight, in the middle of a storm. With nowhere to go and no one to turn to. That is cruel. That is justice. "Sign the papers, Donna." Her hands shook as she picked up the pen. She read none of the words. Her life here was over. She signed her name on every line, her hand moving automatically. When she finished, Matt gathered the papers without looking at her. "You can take one suitcase. Whatever you can carry. Nothing more." "One suitcase? I lived here. Those belongings were provided by me. They belong to this house. You came with almost nothing and you will leave with the same." She was too tired to fight. She walked upstairs in a daze, found the small suitcase she had brought when she first married, and packed quickly. Some clothes, photographs, a book her mother had given her. Nothing from Matt. When she came back downstairs, he was waiting in the foyer holding her coat. The rain was deafening. "You are really going to make me leave in this storm?" "You should have thought about that before you failed me." He opened the door. Wind rushed in, bringing cold and rain and the smell of wet earth. Donna looked out into the darkness, then back at Matt one final time. "I hope you find what you are looking for. I hope your next wife gives you all the children you desire. And I hope they grow up to be just like you, so you can see what you really are." She walked out into the storm without waiting for his response. The rain hit her like fists, but she did not stop. She walked down the long driveway in her thin shoes, her suitcase heavy in her hand. Behind her, the mansion's lights blazed against the storm. She did not look back, only forward now into the darkness and whatever waited on the other side of this night. Chapter 3. The Road to Mercy. The rain erased the world. Donna could barely see ahead, could barely distinguish road from ditch. Her suitcase grew heavier with each step, waterlogged and dragging at her arm, but she could not abandon it. It contained the last pieces of who she had been before Matt Smith. Her shoes were ruined within minutes. Her feet were numb with cold. Her dress clung to her body, heavy and restricting. But still she walked, because walking was all she had left. The Smith estate sat far from town, isolated by design. Donna had not thought about this when she left. She had thought only of escaping. Now she was alone on a road that seemed to lead nowhere, with storm clouds blocking whatever moon might have guided her. Her legs were trembling. The cold had worked into her bones, making her teeth chatter, making her hands shake. She thought about abandoning the suitcase, but some stubborn part of her refused. Lightning split the sky, and in that brief illumination, Donna saw how far she had walked. The road curved away into darkness. surrounded by trees that bent like mourners. She was completely alone. Thunder followed, so loud it shook her chest. The rain intensified, coming down in sheets that made breathing difficult. Donna stumbled, caught herself, kept walking. She did not see the tree root that caught her foot. One moment she was walking, the next she was falling, her suitcase flying from her grip and landing in a puddle. She lay on the wet pavement, the rain pounding her back, and for a moment she simply could not move. This is how it ends, she thought. Alone on a road in the rain, dying of cold and shame and a broken heart. She tried to push herself up, but her arms had no strength. She managed to roll onto her back, staring up at the black sky, rain hitting her face like accusations. The numbness was spreading, which was almost a mercy. Her eyes drifted closed. Somewhere far away, she heard a sound that might have been thunder, or might have been something else. She did not have the energy to care. The sound grew louder, not thunder. Something mechanical and moving closer. Donna's eyes fluttered open, but she could not focus. Headlights cut through the storm. She heard brakes squeal, heard a car door slam, heard footsteps running through puddles. "Oh, God, are you hurt?" A man's voice, deep and panicked. Hands touching her face, gentle and warm despite the rain. "Can you hear me?" "What happened?" She managed to shake her head. "Not hit, just broken. Just thrown away. I am going to pick you up now. I need to get you out of this storm." She felt herself being lifted, felt strong arms sliding beneath her, felt herself cradled against a broad chest that smelled like wood and something sweet. He was carrying her through the rain. "You are safe now. I promise you are safe." The darkness pulled at her deeper this time, and she surrendered to it with something that felt almost like relief. When she woke, she was warm. That was the first thing she noticed. Warmth. She had forgotten what it felt like. She was wrapped in soft blankets that smelled like lavender, lying on something comfortable. The second thing she noticed was light. Not harsh chandelier light, but softer, gentler morning light coming through curtains. And underneath that, the smell of flowers and fresh bread. She tried to sit up, but every muscle ached. Easy now. Do not try to move too quickly. A woman stood in the doorway, holding a tray with a steaming mug. She was older, with kind eyes and hands that looked like they had worked hard. "Who are you?" "My name is Ruth. I'm Jim's sister. He brought you here last night, half drowned and frozen." Memory returned in pieces. "The storm, the road, falling headlights, a man's voice promising she was safe. Jim found you on Route 9 during that terrible storm. I am a nurse, so I checked you over. Nothing broken, thank God. But you were hypothermic and exhausted. Your body needed rest." Donna looked down at herself and realized she was wearing clothes that were not hers. A soft cotton nightgown, clean and simple. My thing. "Your suitcase is in the closet, all dried out. Your dress was ruined, I'm afraid. But I put some of my clothes in the dresser there." Kindness. Donna had almost forgotten what it felt like. The tears came before she could stop them. "I am sorry. I did not mean to cry." Ruth sat on the edge of the bed and took Donna's hand. "Monday teen der fetistor. Honey, you cry all you need to. I do not know what put you on that road in the middle of a storm, but I know it was nothing good. You are safe here. That is all that matters right now." The words broke something open inside Donna. She cried then, like she had not allowed herself to cry in so long, great gasping sobs that shook her whole body. Ruth held her hand through it all, just being present. When the tears finally subsided, Ruth handed her a tissue. "Better?" Donna nodded, unable to speak yet. "Good. Now you rest some more, and when you feel up to it, come downstairs. Jim will want to know you are awake." Later, when she finally felt strong enough to leave the bed, Donna made her way downstairs. The house was small but warm, lived in, full of comfortable chaos that spoke of a real home. Photographs covered the walls, books overflowed from shelves, and sunlight poured through windows. She found Jim Willie in the kitchen, standing at the stove, stirring something in a large pot. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with hands that looked strong and capable. When he turned at the sound of her footsteps, his face broke into a smile. "You are awake. How are you feeling?" "Better. Thank you. For everything. For saving me. He waved off her thanks. Anyone would have done the same. No, not anyone would have stopped. Not everyone would have cared. Their eyes met across the kitchen, and something passed between them. Understanding, recognition of pain, seen and acknowledged. Well, I'm glad I was on that road when you needed someone. Please sit down. I made soup. Donna sat at the small kitchen table, and Jim ladled soup into a bowl, setting it in front of her with gentleness that reminded her he had carried her through the rain. The soup was perfect, simple and warm and full of flavors that made her realize how long it had been since she had eaten anything made with care. You do not have to tell me what happened, Jim said, sitting across from her with his own coffee. But if you ever want to talk about it, I am a good listener. Donna set down her spoon. She looked at this man who had saved her life without asking for anything, and she made a decision. I left my husband, or rather he threw me out, in the middle of the storm. Jim's face darkened. He threw you out? Into that weather? He was done with me. I could not give him what he wanted, so I was no longer useful. What kind of man throws his wife out into a storm? The kind who never loved her in the first place. Silence fell between them. Jim reached across the table and covered her trembling hands with his own. His hands were warm and rough with calluses, working hands, and his touch was so gentle that Donna felt tears threatening again. You are not useless. Whatever he told you, whatever he made you believe, it was a lie. You are a person who deserves kindness and safety and a place to rest. Donna looked down at his hands covering hers and felt something shift in her chest. Not love, not yet, but the possibility of it. Thank you, she whispered. You are welcome here as long as you need to be. No pressure, no expectations, just a place to heal. Bide. And for the first time since she had signed those divorce papers, Donna felt something other than despair. She felt the faint stirring of hope, fragile as a new seed, but real nonetheless. Maybe her story was not over after all. Maybe it was just beginning. Chapter 4. The Architecture of Healing. The days unfolded like pages in a book Donna had never read before. She woke to sunlight instead of judgment, to the smell of coffee instead of cold silence, to the sound of Jim moving through his house with easy comfort. He left early for his work building houses, but before he went, he would leave fresh fruit on the kitchen counter and a note. The notes were simple, written on scraps of wood or paper bags, but they made her smile. Good morning, Donna. Coffee in the pot and bread in the oven. Rest today. The books on the shelf are yours to read. I recommend the one with the blue cover. Ruth is coming by this afternoon. Be nice to her. She means well even when she fusses. Ruth did fuss, arriving in the afternoons with groceries, or fresh flowers or some small thing she thought Donna might need. They would sit together on the porch, talking about everything and nothing. Ruth never pushed for information about Donna's past, never made her feel like she owed anything. You are looking better, Ruth observed one afternoon. Color coming back to your cheeks. Ah, I feel better, stronger. Good. That man of mine, I mean my brother, he has been cooking like it is his mission to fatten you up. Donna laughed, the sound surprising her. He means well. He does, always rescuing stray cats and injured birds and apparently women he finds on roads in storms. Ruth's voice was teasing, but her eyes were sharp. He likes you, you know. He barely knows me. He knows enough. Jim has good instincts about people. When he brought you in that night, I saw something in his face I have not seen in a long time. Protectiveness, yes, but more than that. Recognition. I am not a project. No, you are not, and he knows that. Just do not mistake his kindness for pity. The words stayed with Donna. She thought about them as she moved through the house, familiarizing herself with its rhythms. The house was nothing like the Smith mansion. It was small and practical, built by Jim's own hands, full of wood that he had cut and sanded and shaped with care. She found his workshop behind the house one afternoon. The door was open, and inside she could see tools hanging on walls, sawdust covering the floor, and half-finished pieces of furniture. A rocking chair sat in one corner, its wood glowing golden. "It is for a family expecting their first baby," Jim's voice came from behind her. "The mother asked for something her grandmother might have had. It is beautiful. It will be when it is finished. Right now, it is just potential." He looked at her with those kind eyes, like most things worth building. They stood together in the doorway, and Donna felt something shift between them. Not romance, not yet, but the foundation of it. "Do you want to see how it is done?" Jim asked. "I could show you." He taught her about wood that afternoon, about how different types had different grains, different strengths. He showed her how to sand with the grain instead of against it, how to feel when a surface was truly smooth. "You cannot rush good woodwork," he explained, guiding her hands. "If you try to force it, the wood fights back. You have to work with it, understand it, give it time to become what it is meant to be." Is that how you approach everything? Houses, furniture, life? You cannot force things to be what they are not. You have to respect what they are and help them become the best version of that. Donna thought about Matt, about how he had tried to force her into a shape she could never fit. Jim's philosophy was the opposite. Instead of force, he offered patience. Instead of judgment, he offered understanding. "What if something is too broken to fix?" she asked quietly. "I do not believe anything is too broken. Sometimes things need to be remade into something new rather than restored to what they were. But broken does not mean worthless, it just means changed." She looked up at him and understood that he was not just talking about wood. The weeks passed, and Donna found herself slowly becoming part of the rhythm of Jim's life. She learned to cook in his kitchen, using his recipes and adding her own touches. She learned to tend his small garden, coaxing vegetables from the earth with patience. She learned to sit on the porch in the evenings, watching sunsets paint the sky in impossible colors. Jim never rushed her, never pushed her to talk about her past or make decisions about her future. He simply existed alongside her, sharing space and meals and comfortable silences. He would come home from work, covered in sawdust, and he would wash up and join her for dinner, telling her stories about the families whose houses he was building. "The couple on Maple Street are expecting twins," he said one evening. "They showed me the ultrasound pictures. They were crying with joy." That must be wonderful to witness. It is. I love my work because I am not just building walls and roofs. I am building the place where these babies will take their first steps, where they will have birthday parties. I am building the container for memories that have not happened yet. You make it sound like poetry. It is poetry, just written in wood and nails instead of words. Donna set down her fork and looked at him across the table. "Why are you doing this? Why are you being so kind to me?" Jim was quiet for a long moment. "When I was younger, I went through something difficult. Someone helped me when I needed it most, asked nothing in return. I swore then that if I ever had the chance to do the same for someone else, I would. When I found you on that road, I knew this was my chance. So I am your good deed. No, you are a person who needed help, and I am a person who had help to give. It is not more complicated than that. But it was more complicated, and they both knew it. The air between them had been changing, the accidental touches in the kitchen, the way their eyes met and held, the conversations that stretched late into the night. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching fireflies dance, Jim reached over and took her hand. "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I am falling in love with you." The words hung in the air, honest and vulnerable and terrifying. Donna's first instinct was to pull away, to protect herself, but something stopped her. She looked at his face and saw no expectation there, just truth offered freely. "You do not have to say anything back," Jim continued quickly. "I just needed you to know. Whether you feel the same way or not, I am grateful for what you have brought into my life." Donna squeezed his hand, unable to speak past the emotion clogging her throat. She was not ready to say the words back, but she could offer truth of her own. "You make me feel like a person again. Not a failure, not a disappointment, just a person. I did not think anyone could make me feel that way." "You were always a person, Donna. You just needed someone who could see you clearly." They sat together. In the gathering dark, hands clasped, and Donna felt something she had thought was dead beginning to stir back to life. Not love, not yet, but the possibility of it. Maybe this carpenter with his gentle hands and patient heart could teach her what love was supposed to feel like. Maybe in this small house full of wood and warmth and genuine kindness, she could finally learn to bloom. Chapter 5. 4 Seeds of Hope. Spring turned to summer, and Donna found herself unable to imagine leaving. Not because she had nowhere else to go, but because here, in this small home, she had discovered something precious. Herself. The woman who had walked out of the Smith mansion had been a hollow shell. The woman who now tended the garden and cooked dinner and sat on the porch with Jim was someone different, someone stronger, someone who laughed easily and spoke her mind and did not flinch when shadows fell. Her feelings for Jim had deepened slowly, naturally, like roots growing through soil. There were no expectations, no roles to play, no sense that she owed him anything. Jim simply existed alongside her, making space for her to be exactly who she was. One evening in late summer, they were sitting on the porch watching the sun paint the sky. Jim had been quiet all day, and Donna could sense something weighing on his mind. "What is wrong?" she asked finally. He turned to look at her, and she saw nervousness in his eyes. "Nothing is wrong. Everything is right, actually." He knelt down in front of her, taking both her hands in his. Donna's breath caught. "Donna Mansell, I know you have been hurt. I know you have every reason to be careful with your heart. But I cannot keep pretending that I want anything less than forever with you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. "I made this for you. It is not fancy, but it is made with my own hands, and it is meant to last." He opened his palm to reveal a wooden ring, smooth and perfectly shaped, inlaid with tiny flowers, carved so delicately they looked real. It was the most beautiful thing Donna had ever seen. "I want to build a home where your heart can finally rest. Not as a guest or someone I rescued, but as my partner, my wife, my equal in everything. Will you marry me?" Tears were streaming down Donna's face before he finished speaking. She had never heard a proposal like this. Matt had proposed with a diamond ring and a transaction. Jim was offering her a home, a partnership, a place where her heart could rest. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. "Yes, Jim Willie, I will marry you." He slipped the wooden ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Jim stood and pulled her into his arms, and Donna felt something she had never felt in her first marriage, certain. They married on a cool autumn morning with Ruth and a handful of Jim's close friends present. No mansion, no society guests, no performance. Just vows spoken in Jim's backyard, under a tree he had planted himself. "I promise to build you a home where laughter lives," Jim said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "I promise to fill that home with all the love I have been saving," Donna replied, meaning every word. Their marriage was everything her first had not been. Jim touched her with reverence, spoke to her with kindness, made love to her with tenderness that made her understand what she had been missing. They were partners in every sense, building a life together from the ground up, the small house filled with their combined presence. Donna added touches of her own. Curtains she sewed, paintings she found at local markets, herbs she grew. Jim expanded the kitchen for her, built her a reading nook, carved her name into wood, and hung it by the front door alongside his own. The Willie House, it read, where love lives. Not long into their marriage, Donna began to feel strange. At first, she attributed it to happiness, but the symptoms persisted. Fatigue that no amount of sleep could cure, nausea in the mornings, sensitivity to smells. She ignored it for weeks, afraid to acknowledge what it might mean. But Ruth, with her nurse's instincts, noticed. "Donna, honey, have you been tracking your cycles?" Donna had to think about it. With everything that had happened, she had stopped paying attention. When she counted back, her heart began to race. "I do not know. It has been a while." Ruth's face softened into a smile. "I think you need to see a doctor." "No." The word came out sharp, defensive. "I cannot. I am not. Matt said I was barren." "What doctors actually examined you, honey? Did you ever see anyone together?" Donna realized with a shock that she had not. Matt had insisted the problem was hers, had refused to see anyone together, had convinced her so thoroughly of her brokenness that she had never questioned it. "Come with me," Ruth said gently. "Let us find out for sure." The doctor's appointment was terrifying. Donna sat on the examination table, Jim holding her hand. Ruth standing supportive beside her, and she was shaking so hard she could barely breathe. The doctor performed examinations and finally sent Donna for an ultrasound. Donna lay on the table, Jim still holding her hand, staring at the ceiling. The technician moved the wand across Donna's belly, her eyes focused on the screen. Then she smiled. "Well, you are definitely pregnant." Donna could not breathe, could not think, could not process the words. "How far along?" Jim asked. His voice choked with emotion. "Let me get a better measurement." The technician moved the wand again, clicking buttons. Then she paused. Her smile grew wider. "Oh my. You are not pregnant with one baby, Mrs. Willie. You are pregnant with 4. The room tilted. 4. 4 separate heartbeats, quadruplets, extremely rare. But there they are. The technician turned the screen so they could see 4 tiny shapes. 4 little miracles, 4 beating hearts. Donna burst into tears. Jim was crying too, his hand pressed to his mouth, his eyes wide with wonder. Ruth was openly weeping in the corner. 4 babies, Jim whispered. "Donna, we are having 4 babies." They drove home in stunned silence. When they finally made it back to the house, they sat on the couch Jim had built, holding each other and crying tears that were equal parts joy and disbelief. "You were never barren," Jim said, his voice fierce. "Do you hear me? You just needed to be loved first. Your body knew. It knew that place was not safe, that man was not worthy, that these children deserve better." Donna pressed her hand to her belly, feeling nothing yet, but knowing that beneath her skin 4 tiny lives were growing. 4 miracles that Matt Smith had convinced her were impossible. "What if I cannot do this?" she whispered. Jim tilted her face up. "You survived a loveless marriage. You walked away from everything. You nearly died and chose to live anyway. You rebuilt yourself. Donna, you are the strongest person I have ever met. And you will not be doing it alone. I will be right beside you for every moment." She believed him. For the first time in her life, she believed completely in the words a man was saying to her. The pregnancy was difficult. Donna's body struggled to carry 4 babies, and there were days when the pain made her wonder if she would survive. But Jim was there through all of it, holding her hand through doctor visits, rubbing her aching back, talking to her belly, and telling their children how loved they already were. The day she went into labor, Jim drove faster than he had ever driven, Ruth in the back seat coaching Donna through contractions. The delivery was long and complicated, but Jim never left her side. "You can do this," he kept saying. "Bring our children home, Donna." And she did. Through pain and fear and determination, she brought 4 babies into the world. 2 sons and 2 daughters, each one perfect, each one crying with healthy lungs, each one a testament to the lie that she had been barren. Jim held her hand through all of it, crying openly, whispering, "You were never barren. You were just unloved. But now you are loved, and look what you created. When they finally placed the babies in her arms, all four at once, with Jim's help, Donna looked down at their tiny faces and felt overwhelming love so fierce it threatened to consume her. "You came because you knew it was safe now," she whispered. "You waited for love to be here first." Jim wrapped his arms around all of them, his family, and they sat together in that hospital room, surrounded by love and life and proof that sometimes the cruelest lies can be defeated by the most beautiful truths. Donna was never barren. She was just planted in poison, and when she was finally transplanted to soil that could nourish her, she bloomed beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Chapter 6. The House That Laughter Built. The early days with Quadruplets were beautiful chaos. Jim and Donna moved through their days, strategizing diaper changes and feeding schedules. But through all the exhaustion, there was endless joy. They named their children carefully, Elijah and Samuel, their sons, Grace and Faith, their daughters. Each name was a prayer made solid, a reminder that these children had been impossible, and yet here they were. Elijah had Jim's eyes and Donna's determined chin. Samuel was quieter, observing everything with intensity. Grace moved through the world with ease that made everything look effortless. Faith was the fighter, crying the loudest and loving the hardest. Four completely different people, Jim observed one evening. Holding Samuel while Donna nursed Grace, and Faith played with Elijah on a blanket. "They know who they are already," Donna replied. "They just need us to help them become it." Jim had expanded the house to accommodate their growing family, adding rooms with care. Every board was sanded smooth. Every corner was rounded. Every window positioned to let in maximum light. The nursery was the heart of the house now, full of cribs and changing tables and baskets overflowing with tiny clothes. Donna had sewn curtains with stars and moons, and Jim had painted a mural showing a forest full of animals that watched over the babies while they slept. Ruth visited daily, bringing groceries and offering her hands for whatever needed doing. The community embraced the Willie family with warmth. Neighbors stopped by with casseroles and hand-me-down clothes. The woman who ran the bakery brought fresh bread weekly. "This is what community is supposed to look like," Jim said. "People taking care of people." "I never had this before," Donna admitted. In Matt's world, everyone was too busy competing to actually help each other. The children grew faster than seemed possible. One day they were tiny infants, and the next they were rolling over, sitting up, crawling with determination. The house echoed with their sounds, crying and cooing and eventually laughing, that pure baby laughter that seemed to contain all the joy in the world. Jim was a natural father. He changed diapers without complaint, woke for midnight feedings, sang lullabies in his deep voice. He built toys from scraps in his workshop, wooden blocks and simple puzzles and small cars. He talked to them constantly, reading to them from books, even though they could not yet understand. "They are learning the sound of your voice," Donna told him. "They are learning that this is what a father sounds like. This is what every father should sound like. But I am glad I get to be theirs." Donna discovered motherhood was different when it came with partnership. Jim never called caring for his children helping. He was their father, and this was his job as much as it was hers. They developed routines that kept the chaos manageable. Jim would wake early and handle the first feeding. She would take the afternoon shift while he worked. They would tackle bedtime together, each taking 2 babies, rocking and singing until all 4 were asleep. On the rare evenings when all the children slept at the same time, Jim and Donna would collapse on the couch together, too exhausted to move, but content in ways neither had ever experienced. "We made this," Donna would whisper, looking around at the house full of evidence of their children, toys scattered, tiny clothes drying, bottles waiting to be washed. "We made this," Jim would agree, pulling her close, "and it is the best thing I have ever built." The town embraced the Willie Quadruplets as their own collective miracle. People stopped the family on the street. The local newspaper ran a story with a photograph. Strangers would approach in the grocery store, offering congratulations and sometimes pressing money into donors' hands. For the babies. Quadruplets must be expensive. They were expensive. Jim took on extra projects, working longer hours, but he never complained. Donna stretched their budget with creativity, sewing clothes from old fabric, making toys from household items. But they were rich in ways that had nothing to do with money. Their house was full of laughter and love. The children hit milestones in clusters, all four crawling within days of each other, all four standing in the same week, all four taking their first steps practically in unison. They encourage each other, the pediatrician observed. Having siblings the same age pushes them to keep up. It is quite remarkable. What was remarkable to Donna was watching her children become people. Elijah was the leader, always figuring things out first. Samuel was the thinker, sitting back and watching before trying. Grace was the diplomat, able to calm her siblings when they got frustrated. Faith was the adventurer, willing to try anything once. Jim built them a play structure in the backyard, complete with swings and a small slide. He made it low to the ground and soft-edged, safe for toddlers learning coordination. Donna would sit on the porch and watch them play. These four miracles who proved every lie Matt Smith had ever told her wrong. As the children grew, their personalities only became more pronounced. They fought and made up, played together and occasionally needed breaks from each other. Loved fiercely and squabbled loudly like all siblings do. Ruth was their favorite aunt, spoiling them with cookies and stories. She taught them to plant seeds in the garden and showed them how to make mud pies and let them help her bake, even though it meant flour ended up everywhere. Jim taught them about wood, letting them sit in his workshop while he worked, giving them sandpaper to practice with, showing them how something rough could become smooth with patience. Donna taught them to cook, pulling chairs up to the counter so they could help stir and pour and measure. She read to them every night, all four piled into one bed, their small bodies warm against hers while she brought stories to life. The house Jim had built expanded with the family. Rooms added as needed, always with the same care. A playroom where toys could explode. A reading nook with cushions and shelves full of books. A craft corner where the children could create messes without Donna worrying. "This house is alive," Donna said one evening, watching Jim help the children build something with blocks. "It breathes with us. It grows with us. That is what homes are supposed to do. They are supposed to be living things, not museums." Sometimes, late at night after the children were asleep, Donna would walk through the house and touch the walls Jim had built, the furniture he had crafted. She would remember the woman she had been in the Smith mansion, hollow and hurting, convinced she was broken beyond repair. That woman would not recognize who Donna had become. This Donna laughed easily and loved fiercely and moved through the world with confidence born of knowing her worth. This Donna had stretch marks and tired eyes and hands rough from housework, and she had never been more beautiful. "Do you ever think about him?" Jim asked her once late at night. "Your ex-husband?" "Sometimes, not often. Mostly I wonder if he knows what he threw away. His loss is my gain. Every day I'm grateful that he was too foolish to see what he had." The children brought new meaning to every holiday. First birthdays became elaborate affairs with homemade cakes, and the entire community invited. Halloween meant 4 coordinating costumes. Donna stayed up late sewing. Christmas turned into a production with 4 stockings hung and 4 piles of presents. "We are making memories," Jim would say, taking photographs. "We are building them a childhood worth remembering." And they were. The children would grow up knowing they were wanted, loved, celebrated every single day. They would grow up in a house built by their father's hands and filled with their mother's love. Donna watched them play in the backyard one afternoon, all 4 covered in dirt and laughter, and she felt peace so complete it brought tears to her eyes. These children were proof of everything she had survived. They were proof that Matt Smith had been wrong about her, proof that love could heal what cruelty had broken. Jim came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" "That I am the luckiest woman alive. That these 4 babies saved my life as surely as you did. That every terrible thing I went through was worth it, because it led me here. You saved yourself. I just gave you a safe place to do it." They stood together watching their children, this family they had built from nothing, this miracle born of second chances and genuine love. And Donna understood with perfect clarity that she had not just survived her first marriage, she had transcended it entirely. Chapter 7. The Gilded Emptiness. While Donna Willie built a life full of laughter, Matt Smith discovered that getting what you wanted sometimes means realizing it was never what you needed. Virginia Thompson entered his life like a tornado wearing designer heels. She was everything the society pages celebrated: beautiful, connected, photogenic, constantly surrounded by people who mattered. She was also everything Donna had not been: loud, confident, demanding of attention. Matt met her at a charity gala sometime after his divorce was finalized. She was holding court near the bar, her laugh carrying across the room. When she looked at him, her eyes calculated his net worth before she even learned his name. "Matt Smith," she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "I have heard about you. I admire ruthlessness in a man." He should have heard the warning. Instead, he heard flattery. They married quickly, a whirlwind courtship that felt more like a transaction than a romance. Virginia wanted the prestige of the Smith name and access to the mansion. Matt wanted a wife who would look perfect on his arm and give him the children Donna could not. Neither of them got what they wanted. Virginia moved into the Smith estate like a conquering army, immediately redecorating everything. The tasteful neutrals were replaced with bold colors. The quiet elegance was drowned in ostentation. She hired photographers to follow her through the house, posting images that made their life look glamorous while cropping out anything that revealed the emptiness. Her social media presence exploded. Thousands of followers watched her curate a life that existed only in photographs. The reality behind the camera was different. "Do you have to work tonight?" she would ask, pouting. "I wanted to go to the gallery opening. I have obligations in the morning. I cannot stay out until midnight." "You are so boring." "This is why I should have married someone more exciting." The comment was delivered with a laugh, but Matt heard the truth underneath. Virginia had not married him for excitement. She had married him for money and status, and he was expected to provide both while making no demands of his own. Their marriage settled into a pattern. Virginia planned elaborate events that existed primarily for social media content. Matt worked long hours and came home to a house that felt more like a hotel than a home. They slept in the same bed, but might as well have been on different continents. His mother's ghost haunted the mansion. He would walk past the rooms she had occupied and remember her disappointment when he divorced Donna, her final words about throwing away something real for something shiny. He had dismissed her concerns then. Now he was beginning to wonder if she had been right. Virginia's spending was astronomical. Bills arrived for clothes, jewelry, spa treatments, photography sessions, and luxuries she considered necessities. When Matt tried to discuss a budget, she laughed. "Do not be vulgar. We are wealthy. We are wealthy because I work for it. Because I manage our resources carefully. Then manage them. But do not expect me to live like a pauper. Control." The word stung because it was partially true. Matt had liked controlling Donna because she was quiet and compliant. Virginia was none of those things, and her resistance frustrated him in ways he could not articulate. The irony was not lost on him. He had divorced Donna partly because she made him feel inadequate. Now he had a wife who made him feel inadequate in different ways. The topic of children came up occasionally, but Virginia always deflected. "Not yet. I am not ready to ruin my body. We have been married for some time. I thought you wanted a family. I do, eventually, when I am ready. Do not pressure me." So Matt waited, growing more frustrated, wondering if he had traded one childless marriage for another. At least Donna had wanted children. Virginia treated the subject like an inconvenience. Her photography sessions became more frequent. She hired a young photographer named Harris, who specialized in glamorous lifestyle shots. Matt came home several times to find them doing shoots throughout the house. Virginia draped over furniture, while Harris clicked away. "Is this really necessary?" Matt asked during one session. "Yes, it is necessary. This is my career. Just because you do not understand social media does not mean it is not important." Harris packed up quickly, sensing tension. Matt noticed the way Virginia's eyes followed the photographer, the way she smiled at him differently. But he dismissed it as paranoia. The mansion that had once been too quiet was now constantly full of noise. Virginia hosted parties for people she barely knew, events that existed primarily to be photographed. She would spend days planning the perfect shots. Matt found himself hiding in his study during these events, unable to stomach the performance. He would sit at his desk, supposedly reviewing papers, actually just avoiding the crowd of strangers in his home. One night, he walked past the nursery his mother had decorated. The room had remained locked since Donna left. He opened the door for the first time and stood in the doorway, looking at the yellow walls and the empty crib, and something cracked inside his chest. What if Donna had been telling the truth? What if the problem had never been with her? He pushed the thought away. It was too late for regrets. Donna was gone. He had chosen Virginia. Virginia announced her pregnancy on social media before she told him. Matt learned he was going to be a father by seeing the announcement pop up on his phone. The post was elaborately staged, with artful photographs and a caption full of emojis. He came home that evening to find her planning a baby shower. "You could have told me first." "I did tell you first, just not very far first. Besides, my followers had been asking." "Your followers are more important than your husband? Do not be dramatic. You know now. What difference does it make?" He wanted to tell her the difference. He wanted to explain that this moment should have been intimate and private. But he knew she would not understand. The baby shower planning consumed Virginia's attention completely. She hired an event planner, a photographer, and a caterer. Every detail had to be perfect for the camera. Nothing was for them. Everything was for the audience. "I want to invite your ex-wife," Virginia announced one evening. Matt looked up. "What?" "Your first wife, Donna. I want to invite her to the baby shower." "Why would you possibly want to do that?" Virginia smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "Because it will make for amazing content. The barren first wife watching the fertile second wife celebrate her baby. People will eat it up. That is cruel. That is smart. Besides, she probably has moved on by now. It will be fine." Matt should have said no. Should have protected Donna from this final humiliation. But part of him, the vindictive part that still resented her for making him feel inadequate, wanted her to see what he had now. So he agreed. The invitation was sent. Matt watched it go out and felt something uncomfortable in his chest that might have been conscience. The day of the baby shower arrived. The Smith mansion was transformed into a pastel paradise, decorated with elaborate displays that existed primarily to be photographed. Guests arrived in designer clothes, air-kissed Virginia, and positioned themselves for the best camera angles. Matt stood beside his wife, playing the role of proud father-to-be, smiling for photographers while feeling nothing but emptiness. When Donna walked through the door, everything stopped. Matt felt the air leave his lungs. The woman standing in his foyer bore almost no resemblance to the hollow-eyed ghost who had signed divorce papers in this house. This woman was radiant, confident, holding the hands of 4 children who looked up at her with obvious adoration. 4 children. The same woman he had called barren was standing in his home with 4 children. Matt stared. The mathematical impossibility made his head spin. Behind her stood a tall man with kind eyes and carpenter's hands, and Matt understood immediately that this was her husband. This was the man who had given her what Matt never could. Virginia's triumph deflated instantly. Her carefully staged moment was upstaged by the appearance of a woman who needed no staging. The other guests began whispering, their eyes fixed on the quadruplets. Matt stared at Donna, at the children, at the man beside her, and felt his entire worldview crumbling. If she could have children, if she could have 4 children, then the problem had never been hers, which meant it was his. The thought was poison spreading through his veins. Everything he had believed might be a lie. He had destroyed his first marriage, discarded a woman who did not deserve it, convinced himself she was broken when perhaps the broken one had always been him. He watched Donna move through the party with grace, watched her children charm everyone, watched her husband look at her with obvious love. And Matt Smith understood, with crushing certainty, that he had thrown away the only chance at happiness he had ever had. Virginia's hand on his arm was tight, her fingernails digging in. She was smiling, but her eyes were furious. Matt looked down at his wife, this woman he had chosen to replace Donna, and for the first time he truly saw her. Saw the calculation behind every smile, the performance behind every gesture, the emptiness behind the glamour. He had married a beautiful shell and called it an upgrade. He had traded substance for shine and convinced himself he had won. But watching Donna laugh with her children, watching her husband pull her close with easy affection, Matt finally understood what he had lost, and the knowing was going to destroy him. Chapter 8. The Invitation That Changed Everything. Virginia. Thompson Smith spent weeks planning her baby shower like generals plan invasions, with meticulous attention and absolute certainty in victory. The theme was elegant garden party with touches of gold and blush pink. She hired the most expensive event planner, demanded specific flowers flown in, and approved every detail personally, while her photographer documented the process. "This is going to be the event of the season," she told Matt repeatedly. "Everyone who matters has RSVP'd yes." Matt nodded without really listening. Virginia noticed his distraction and frowned. "You could at least pretend to care. This is your child we are celebrating. I care. Then act like it. I need you present and smiling for photographs. Can you manage that?" He managed it. Their marriage had settled into a pattern of her demanding and him acquiescing. The invitation to Donna had been Virginia's idea, but Matt had agreed with eagerness. Some part of him wanted her to see what he had built without her, wanted her to witness that he had moved on, except he was not happy. He was successful and wealthy and married to a woman who looked perfect in photographs, but happiness remained elusive. The day of the shower arrived with perfect weather and Virginia's plans executing smoothly. Guests arrived in expensive cars, handed their invitations to the valet, and entered already positioning themselves for camera angles. The photographer Virginia had hired, Harris, was everywhere with his camera. Matt noticed the way Virginia smiled at Harris, the way she touched his arm when giving directions, the way he called her Ginny, like they were more familiar than they should be. But he pushed away the observation. He stood beside Virginia as she greeted guests, playing his role, accepting congratulations with a smile that felt painted on. Virginia kept checking her phone, monitoring engagement with posts already going live. "Smile more," she hissed between guests. "You look like you are at a funeral." "Sorry, I am smiling." "Smile like you mean it." When Donna walked through the door, the effect was instantaneous. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. The energy in the room shifted. Matt stared. The woman walking toward him bore little resemblance to the Donna he remembered. That Donna had been pale and hollow-eyed, moving through the world like a ghost. This Donna was radiant. Her skin glowed. Her eyes were bright. She moved with confidence that came from somewhere deep inside, but it was the 4 children that made his heart stop. 4 children, all the same size, clearly the same age, holding onto her hands and looking around with curious eyes. 4 impossibilities made flesh. Behind them walked a tall man with broad shoulders and kind eyes, and Matt recognized immediately what he was looking at. This was Donna's husband. This was the father of those 4 children. "Donna!" Virginia's voice was bright and false. How wonderful. And you brought guests. These are my children, Donna said, her voice steady. And this is my husband, Jim. Virginia's smile froze for a fraction of a second. Children. How lovely. I did not know you had remarried. And 4. How remarkable. The whispers started immediately. Matt heard fragments of conversations about the quadruplets, about the first wife showing up with children, about the delicious drama. This was not how Virginia had planned this moment. She had wanted to showcase her triumph over the barren first wife. Instead, she was being upstaged. Donna moved through the party with grace, her children polite and well-behaved, her husband's hand occasionally touching her back in a gesture so natural it spoke of genuine affection. People gravitated toward her, asking about the children, treating her like the miracle she was. He could not stop staring, could not stop doing math in his head. How old were those children? Which meant Donna had gotten pregnant shortly after leaving him. Within a short time of being divorced from the man who called her barren, she had conceived quadruplets. The implication was staggering. The only variable that had changed was the man. Not her body, just the man she was with, which meant the problem had never been hers. It had been his. No, the thought was impossible. His bloodline was flawless. The problem had to have been with Donna, but 4 children did not lie. They were truth made solid. They were proof that every assumption he had made was wrong. Matt, Virginia's hand on his arm, was tight. Stop staring. You are being obvious. How is this possible? How is what possible? She remarried and had children. Stop acting like it is some cosmic miracle. But it was a miracle. Or more accurately, it was proof that the universe had a sense of irony. He had thrown Donna away for being infertile, and she had responded by having quadruplets. The slap could not have been more direct. The shower continued in a blur. Virginia cut the cake and posed for photographs with Matt in the background. Games were played, gifts were opened and filmed. But Matt's attention kept drifting back to Donna and her family. This was what a family looked like. Not a performance, just people who genuinely enjoyed being together. He had never seen that in his own home, not with Virginia, and certainly not with Donna when they were married. But looking at them now, he understood that the common factor in both his failed relationships was himself. After the cake was cut, Donna approached him. Matt had been avoiding direct interaction, but there was no escape now. "Hello, Matt." "Donna." His voice came out rough. "Your children are beautiful. Thank you. They are my greatest joy. I did not know you had remarried. There is a lot you do not know about me. There was a lot you never bothered to learn." The words were delivered without malice, just statement of fact, which somehow made them hurt worse. "How old are they?" He had to know. "I got pregnant shortly after our divorce was finalized. Jim and I married first, of course, shortly after. She had been with him for over a season and produced nothing. She had been with this Jim person for a short time and created quadruplets. The math was damning. Donna, He did not know how to finish. "You do not need to say anything. I did not come here to make you feel bad. Virginia invited me, and I accepted because I wanted to close that chapter completely. But how did you? The doctors said..." "What doctors, Matt? We never saw doctors together. You refused to. You were so certain the problem was mine that you never considered it might be yours. What does that mean?" Donna looked at him with something that might have been pity. "It means bodies know when they are not safe. It means love matters more than you think. It means that maybe I could not conceive with you because my body understood that bringing children into that house would have been cruel to them." The words hit him like physical blows. Before he could respond, one of her daughters tugged on her hand. "Mama, can we go home now? This house is too big and cold." Donna smiled down at her child. "Soon, Faith, soon." She looked back at Matt one last time. "Congratulations on your baby. I hope this marriage is happier than ours was." She walked away then, gathering her family around her, and Matt watched them leave. Watched the door close behind them, and felt something collapse inside his chest. Virginia appeared beside him, her face flushed with anger. That was humiliating. She upstaged my entire event. This was supposed to be my day. She was invited. I thought she would come alone and sad, not with an entire family. Everyone was talking about her instead of me. Matt turned to look at his wife, really look at her, and saw clearly what he had been avoiding. She cared nothing for him or the child she was carrying. She cared only about appearances, about social media, about being the center of attention. She had married him for the same reason he had married Donna, for what he could provide, rather than who he was. "I need to make a phone call," he said abruptly, walking away. He locked himself in his study and pulled out his phone, searching through old contacts until he found the number for the doctor who had examined both him and Donna during their marriage. It took several calls, but eventually Matt got access to the complete medical files from his first marriage. He sat at his desk, papers spread before him, reading words he should have read long ago. The results were devastating. Donna's tests had shown nothing wrong, but there was another file, one he had never seen before, marked with his own name. Matt's hands trembled as he opened it. Test results. His test results. From the same period when Donna was being examined. He had been tested after all, though he had no memory of it. The results were clear, clinical, damning. Severely low sperm count, poor motility, structural abnormalities. The medical conclusion. Patient presents with infertility. Natural conception highly unlikely. His mother had tested him without his knowledge, had received these results, and had hidden them from him completely while allowing him to believe Donna was the problem. Matt's hands were shaking as he called the doctor directly. "Why was I never told about these results?" he asked, his voice barely controlled. The doctor was quiet for a long moment. "Mr. Smith, your mother brought you to my office for what you believed was a routine physical. She requested the fertility testing be done without your explicit knowledge. When the results came back, she met with me privately. She made it very clear that you were never to know, that the Smith family's reputation could not withstand the truth. You let her hide this from me. You let me destroy my marriage based on a lie. She was my patient as well as you, and you never asked for the test directly, so I assumed she had discussed it with you. I'm deeply sorry if that was not the case." Matt hung up without saying goodbye. He sat in his study, surrounded by luxury and success, and understood that his entire life was built on lies. His mother had not just discouraged testing. She had tested him secretly, received proof of his infertility, and buried it completely to protect the family name. And he had been so arrogant that he had never questioned whether he might be the problem. Donna had not been barren. He was. The medical records spread across his desk proved it beyond any doubt. The woman he had thrown away could have given him children if he had been capable of giving her children first. But he was not capable. He was the empty one, the broken one, the failure. And now he was married to a woman who did not love him, carrying a child that he suddenly, sickeningly, knew with certainty could not be his. Matt Smith sat alone in his study as the baby shower continued outside, and felt his carefully constructed world begin to crumble around him. Chapter 9. The walls begin to crack. The baby shower ended with Virginia posing for final photographs. Guests departed, gossiping about the first wife's appearance. The caterers cleaned up while Virginia retreated upstairs to review social media engagement. Matt stayed in his study long after the house fell silent. The medical records lay spread across his desk like evidence at a crime scene. Every page confirmed what he now could not deny. He was infertile. Had been during his marriage to Donna. The condition appeared permanent, which raised a question that made his stomach churn. If he could not father children, whose baby was Virginia carrying? He wanted to dismiss the thought as paranoid, but pieces were clicking together. Virginia's reluctance to get pregnant for so long. Her sudden announcement after spending increased time with Harris. The way she had told her followers before telling him. The timeline. No, he was being crazy. Virginia was shallow and vain, but she would not be so cruel. Would she? He remembered the way she looked at Harris. The way she smiled when the photographer was around. The expensive photography sessions that seemed to require hours alone. Matt's hands clenched into fists. He needed to know. Upstairs, Virginia was in bed with her laptop, reviewing photographs. She barely looked up when Matt entered. That was a disaster. Your ex-wife completely ruined my event. We need to talk. Not now. I'm trying to figure out which photos to post first. Virginia. Look at me. Something in his voice made her close her laptop and look at him with annoyance. What? When did you get pregnant? Exactly. What kind of question is that? A simple one. When? I do not know the exact date. Why does it matter? Was it the weekend I went away? Her face changed just slightly, but enough that Matt saw it. A flicker of guilt or fear. I think so, maybe. I was not tracking it closely. Were you with Harris that weekend? He came by to do a shoot. So what? Virginia. Matt's voice was dangerously quiet. Is that baby mine? The question hung in the air like poison gas. Virginia's expression cycled through several emotions before landing on indignation. How dare you ask me that? I am your wife. Of course it is yours. I am infertile. I have the medical records to prove it. Records my mother hid from me during my first marriage, but records that exist nonetheless. Virginia's face went white. What? I was tested without my knowledge during my marriage to Donna. The results showed I cannot father children. I never could. Which means either you are carrying a miracle baby or that child belongs to someone else. Virginia stood up, wrapping her robe tighter. You are being insane. Where is this coming from? Because your ex-wife showed up with children? It means everything about us. She was never the problem, Virginia. I was. I destroyed my first marriage because I was too arrogant to admit that I might be the broken one. And now I have medical proof of it. You are not broken. Yes, I am. The tests prove it. My mother knew and hid it from me because she was more concerned with the family reputation than the truth. Virginia was backing toward the door, her expression shifting from defiance to calculation. Even if you cannot father children naturally, there are other ways. Maybe the baby is yours through some medical miracle, or maybe you have been sleeping with Harris and got pregnant by him. Maybe you decided that you wanted the Smith money, and it did not matter whose child you were carrying. That is a terrible thing to accuse me of. Then prove me wrong. Take a paternity test. Virginia's face hardened. I will do no such thing. I will not be insulted like this in my own home. It is not your home. It is mine. And if that child is not mine, you will leave with nothing. They stared at each other, and Matt saw their marriage for what it truly was. A transaction that had gone bad. A performance that had run out of audience. A lie being exposed. I want a divorce, Virginia said suddenly. Not until we know whose child you are carrying. I will not stay here and be accused. I will not be treated like this. You can leave any time. But if you leave before we determine paternity, you will get nothing. The prenuptial agreement is very clear about infidelity. Virginia's face was a mask of fury. You are a monster. I'm a fool who married the wrong woman twice. But I am learning. She grabbed her phone and stormed out. Matt heard her making calls from the guest room. Probably calling Harris. Matt sat down heavily and dropped his head into his hands. His second marriage was collapsing just like his first, but this time he could not blame his wife for being broken. This time the broken one was clearly him. He thought about Donna, about the family she had built, about the 4 children who proved she had never been barren, about the happiness he had seen in her eyes. He had thrown away his only chance at something real. He had destroyed a woman who did not deserve it. And for what? To discover that he was the failure all along? His phone rang. His lawyer. We need to meet tomorrow. I have some information you need to hear. About what? About your wife and the photographer. The investigator I hired finally finished his report. So Matt had not been paranoid. There was evidence. Send me the report. Are you sure? It is not pleasant, I'm sure. I need to know the truth, no matter how ugly. He hung up and waited for the email. When it arrived, he opened it with trembling hands. The investigator's report was detailed and damning. Photographs of Virginia and Harris entering hotels together. Credit card receipts for romantic dinners when Matt had been away. Text messages full of intimate language and planning around Matt's schedule. The timeline of the affair stretched back, beginning long before Virginia announced her pregnancy. The worst part was the message near the end. A text from Virginia to Harris. He will never know. The baby will have his name and his money. We just have to be careful until it is born. Matt read the words over and over. But there was no misunderstanding possible. Virginia had gotten pregnant deliberately by Harris, had planned to pass the child off as Matt's, had married him specifically for his money. He was a fool. A blind, arrogant fool who had thrown away a genuine wife to marry a woman who saw him only as a bank account. The irony was suffocating. He had called Donna barren when he was the infertile one. He had divorced her for failing to give him children when he was incapable of giving her children first. And now he was married to a woman carrying another man's baby. Matt stood and walked to the window, looking out at the grounds of the estate that suddenly felt like a prison. Everything he had built, everything he had sacrificed for, all of it was hollow. He had wealth without happiness, status without respect, a marriage without love, and somewhere across town, Donna was tucking 4 children into bed, kissing a husband who actually loved her, living the life that should have been his if he had not been too broken to deserve it. The next morning brought confrontation. Matt called his lawyer, reviewed the evidence, and prepared for the conversation that would end his second marriage just as spectacularly as he had ended his first. Virginia came downstairs late, dressed carefully. She stopped when she saw Matt at the dining room table with files spread in front of him. "We need to talk. I have plans. Cancel them. Sit down." She sat, her expression guarded. Matt slid the investigator's report across the table. Virginia picked it up, flipped through a few pages, and her face went pale. "Where did you get this?" "Where do you think? I hired someone to follow you. Turns out my instincts were right. You have been sleeping with Harris. The baby is his, not mine." Virginia set the report down carefully. "Matt, I can explain." "There is nothing to explain. The evidence is clear. You got pregnant by your photographer, planned to pass the child off as mine, and thought I would never find out. It is not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You married me for money. You never loved me. You have been lying since the day we met." Virginia's expression shifted from defensive to calculating. "Fine, you want the truth? Yes, I married you for money. Yes, the baby is Harris's. But you did not exactly marry me for love, either, did you? You married me to replace the wife you threw away. You wanted someone who looked good on your arm and could give you the children she could not. We are both guilty of using each other." The words stung because they were partially true. Matt had married Virginia for shallow reasons, had chosen her based on appearance rather than substance, had repeated every mistake he made with Donna. The difference is I did not commit adultery. I did not try to trick you into raising another man's child. No, you just destroyed your first wife for being barren when you were the infertile one all along. At least I only lied to you. You lied to her and yourself. The accusation landed like a physical blow. Virginia stood gathering the report and her dignity. "I will pack my things and leave. I assume you will be filing for divorce?" "Already filed, this morning." "You will get nothing." The prenuptial agreement was very clear about infidelity. "I do not care about your money anymore. I would rather be poor with Harris than rich with you." She walked out, her heels clicking on the marble floor, and Matt sat alone in the dining room of his enormous empty mansion, understanding with perfect clarity that he had lost everything that mattered while gaining everything that did not. His phone buzzed with a message from his lawyer. "The divorce papers have been filed." She signed without contest. "You are free." Free. The word should have brought relief. Instead, it felt like confirmation of his failure. He was free to be alone in this cold house, free to continue living a life without meaning, free to understand that he had thrown away his only chance at happiness. Matt looked around the dining room. At the expensive furniture and the paintings and the chandelier that cost more than most people's cars. All of it was meaningless. All of it was just things, and things could not love you back, could not forgive your mistakes. He thought about Donna one more time, about the woman who had walked away from all this wealth and found something infinitely more valuable, about the 4 children who proved every lie he had told himself was wrong. And Matt Smith sat in his mansion full of everything money could buy, and understood that he was the poorest man alive. Chapter 10. The Truth That Destroys Worlds. The unraveling came swiftly once it began. Virginia left the mansion within days, moving in with Harris and posting carefully worded statements on social media. Matt's lawyer handled the divorce with ruthless efficiency, and soon the second Mrs. Smith was erased from his life. But this time, Matt could not escape the whispers. This time, the society that had celebrated his marriage turned on him. People talked. They always talked. 2 failed marriages. The man must be the problem. Did you hear? He is infertile. That is why the first wife left. Virginia's baby is not even his. The truth about his infertility spread through his social circle like disease. Matt never discovered who leaked the information, but he suspected Virginia had shared it before she left. The same people who had pitied Donna now pitied Matt, and the irony was not lost on anyone. His mother's deception came to light as well. Family members who had known about the suppressed medical records began talking once the scandal broke. Several relatives had suspected the truth, but remained silent out of loyalty. They had allowed him to destroy his marriage to Donna rather than challenge the family matriarch. She only wanted to protect you, his cousin said weakly. She thought if people knew it would damage the family reputation. So she let me destroy an innocent woman instead. His cousin had no answer. Matt tried to bury himself in work, but even there he found no refuge. Associates who had once respected him now looked at him with barely concealed contempt. His personal failures had become public knowledge. He found himself alone in the mansion more often than not. The silence that had once bothered him now felt suffocating. He would walk through rooms that echoed with emptiness and wonder how he had ever thought this house was worth having. The breaking point came at a family dinner his younger brother insisted on hosting. It was meant to be a show of family unity, but support was the last thing Matt received. They were halfway through the meal when his cousin, emboldened by wine, made a comment about Matt's situation being unfortunate, but ultimately his own fault. Matt let it pass. Then his uncle mentioned how Donna had always been sweet and what a shame it was that Matt had treated her so poorly. Matt gritted his teeth. But when his brother's wife said, "At least Donna found happiness with that carpenter and their 4 children," something inside Matt snapped. 4 children that should have been mine. 4 children she was perfectly capable of having, except I destroyed our marriage before she had the chance. The table went quiet. The tests were wrong about her. She was never barren. I am. My mother knew and hid it from me. She convinced me to blame Donna, rather than admit that the problem might be with the precious Smith bloodline. His brother tried to interrupt. "Matt, maybe we should discuss this privately." "No, everyone here knew the truth or suspected it. You all let me destroy that woman based on a lie. You all protected the family reputation at the expense of an innocent person's life." "We were trying to protect you," his aunt said, "by letting me believe I was perfect when I was broken, by standing silent while I threw away the only woman who ever genuinely cared about me. That is not protection. That is cruelty disguised as loyalty." He stood abruptly. "I need to leave." He drove without destination, his hands gripping the steering wheel. He found himself on the road where Jim Willie lived, though he had not consciously decided to go there. He had looked up the address after the baby shower, driven past once, seen the modest house with the swing set in the yard. Now he parked down the street and watched through the windows. He could see Donna moving through the kitchen. Jim was there too, and what looked like all 4 children. They were preparing dinner together, laughing, the whole family working in comfortable coordination. This was what he had thrown away. This warmth, this joy, this genuine connection. He had traded it for cold marble and empty status. A knock on his car window made him jump. Jim was standing there, his expression unreadable. Matt rolled down the window. "I'm sorry. I should not be here." "No, you should not. But since you are, you might as well come inside. Donna saw your car. She wants to talk to you. I do not think that is a good idea. I do not think you have many good ideas. But she is offering, so you should accept." Matt followed Jim up the driveway, feeling like a man walking to his own execution. Inside, the house was everything the Smith mansion was not. Small, warm, full of life and noise and evidence of people actually living. Donna met him at the door. "Hello, Matt? I am sorry. I should not have come here. It is fine. Come in. The children are eating dinner, but we can talk in the living room." She led him to a cozy room with furniture that looked handmade. Through the doorway, he could see the 4 children at the kitchen table, all talking at once, while Jim supervised. "I heard about Virginia," Donna said, sitting down. "I'm sorry. Why would you be sorry? She was using me. I deserve it. No one deserves to be betrayed like that. Not even you." The kindness in her voice was almost unbearable. I was wrong about everything. You were never barren. I was infertile all along. My mother knew and hid it from me. I destroyed our marriage based on a lie. I know. You know? Dawn, Jim's sister, still has connections in the medical community. She heard about your situation after the baby shower. She told me, and you are not angry." Donna considered this. "I was angry for a long time. But anger is exhausting, Matt, and I have 4 children who need me present, not bitter. So I let it go." "How can you just let it go?" "I called you barren. I threw you out in a storm. I blamed you for my own failure, because holding on to it would only hurt me. You have to live with what you did. I do not have to carry that burden anymore." Through the doorway, Matt could hear the children laughing. One of the daughters was telling a story, and Jim was asking questions. "That should have been my family." "No," Donna replied firmly. "Those children came from love, from a partnership built on respect and genuine affection. They came from soil that could nourish them. They would never have come from our marriage, Matt. Even if you had been fertile, they would not have come. Because our marriage was poisoned from the beginning. I poisoned it. Yes, you did. And I am sorry for you, because you will have to live with that knowledge. But I am not sorry for me anymore. Because if you had been different, if you had loved me, I would still be in that mansion. I would never have met Jim. I would never have had these 4 miracles. So in a terrible way, your cruelty saved me." Matt felt tears burning. "I do not know how to fix what I broke. You cannot fix it. You can only learn from it. And maybe, if you are very lucky, you can become the kind of man who would not make the same mistakes again." One of the sons came running into the room, stopping short when he saw Matt. "Mama, who is this?" "This is someone I used to know, Elijah. He is just leaving." Jim appeared in the doorway, his presence making it clear that Matt's time was up. Donna walked him to the door, and Matt paused on the threshold. "They are beautiful. Your children, your life, all of it." "Yes," Donna agreed. "It is. I'm sorry. For everything. I know it does not matter now, but I need you to know that I am sorry. I hurt you, and I release you from it. Go home, Matt. Find a way to forgive yourself. Because I already have." She closed the door gently, and Matt walked back to his car in the darkness. He sat behind the wheel for a long time, staring at the house that glowed with warmth and life. The final humiliation came days later, not at another planned event, but at a coincidence that felt orchestrated by fate itself. Matt was leaving the courthouse after signing the final divorce papers when he encountered Donna on the steps. She was there with Jim and all 4 children, apparently handling some routine legal matter. People stopped to watch. Word had spread about the scandal, about the truth of Matt's infertility, about Virginia's betrayal. Everyone within sight knew the story. The irony was too perfect. People pulled out phones, not quite brave enough to film openly, but clearly documenting the moment. Matt stood frozen. Donna walked toward him with her children clustering around her. Jim stayed a few steps behind, allowing Donna to handle this moment herself. Matt. She spoke his name clearly enough for the watching crowd to hear. I heard your divorce was finalized. I wanted to say something before we leave. He could not speak. Could only stand there awaiting sentence. You called me barren once. You threw me away because you thought I was empty inside, incapable of giving you what you wanted. Her voice was steady, without anger or bitterness. But look at us now. Look at what I built from the ruins you left me in. She gestured to her children, to Jim, to the evidence of a life fully lived. These 4 beautiful souls came from love. Matt, real love, not the performance you demanded from me. They came because Jim knew how to nourish rather than poison. They came because I finally found soil where I could bloom. The watching crowd was completely silent, every eye fixed on the drama unfolding. And you? The man who stood in his mansion and called me empty. You have nothing. No children, no wife who loves you, no family built on truth. Because here is what you never understood. Fertility is not about bodies, Matt. It is about souls. It is about being capable of nurturing what you claim to want. You planted only deserts while calling the earth barren. And now you stand alone in all that emptiness you created. She paused, looking at him with something that might have been pity. The woman you called barren gave life to love itself. The man who was so proud. Her voice was gentle but devastating. You cannot give life at all. Not because your body is broken, but because your heart is. And that is something no doctor can fix. She turned then, taking Jim's offered hand, their 4 children moving with them like a living testimony to everything Matt had thrown away. They walked down the courthouse steps together, leaving Matt standing alone at the top. The whispers started immediately. Phones appeared openly now. The man who had once commanded respect stood isolated, watching the woman he destroyed walk away with the life that should have been his. Matt looked down at the divorce papers in his hand and understood that he had not just lost 2 wives. He had lost himself, had traded his humanity for pride, his chance at happiness for appearances, his soul for a mansion full of nothing. Donna and her family disappeared around a corner, their laughter carrying back to him on the wind. And Matt Smith stood alone on those courthouse steps, drowning in the ruins of his arrogance, finally understanding what he had destroyed and knowing it was far too late to rebuild. In the end, fertility was never about bodies at all. It was about souls capable of nurturing what they claim to want. And some men plant only deserts while calling the earth barren.